Hello, everybody. I see a lot of familiar names of people who've already been on quite a few of our career conversations. So, for those of you who are coming back, thanks so much for joining us again. For those of you who are joining for the very first time, hello and welcome. My name is Kelly Brucker. I'm the lead career coach at Tech Elevator. I'm really excited to share some of our career development program with the public during these sessions. So, just a little background on Tech Elevator and what we're doing during these sessions. So Tech Elevator, we are a coding bootcamp based out of Cleveland, but we also have locations in Columbus, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Detroit, and Philadelphia as well. Huge news that we've started announcing recently is we're actually going to be launching a remote campus in July. So we're really excited about that. Something good that has come out of all this craziness with COVID-19 and this pandemic we're currently in. But we pretty much teach people how to be software developers. We teach coding. So we take people who are career changers, who've had a successful career in marketing or sales or retail or education or something, and they come to us and say, you know what? I don't love what I'm doing anymore. I want to be a software developer. I have this passion for problem solving and creative thinking. And we teach them how to be software developers in 14 weeks. It's a full-time program, and at the end of the full-time program, we help them with their job search and pursuing a career in coding. Right in line with the coding part of the program is our Pathway program, which is what I lead. And our Pathway program is pretty much our career development program. So our career development program runs right in line with all of that. So in addition to learning how to code, you get killer soft skills and have an amazing resume and LinkedIn and elevator pitch, which is what we're talking about today. So normally I would do a quick introduction of who I am, but instead I want to give you guys my elevator pitch. So hello, my name is Kelly Brucker. I've had a diverse career which has revolved around storytelling and a passion for helping others. So I actually started out in my career as an on-air reporter at a news station in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where I was sharing stories with a live TV news audience. Eventually, I moved back to Cleveland and moved into a role where I was guiding others into crafting their resume into their own story to present to hiring managers. I have a talent for sharing my enthusiasm with others, and I enjoy watching it have a positive impact on their lives. But I'm really inspired by watching others achieve their goals, which is why I love my job at Tech Elevator, where I get to help others on a daily basis. And now I'm really excited to help each and every one of you take the first steps towards crafting your elevator pitch. So let's jump right into today's presentation, which is just that, crafting your perfect pitch. So what is an elevator pitch? I'm sure most of you are aware. The word elevator pitch comes from, this idea, if you're ever stuck in an elevator with the CEO of your dream company or your idol, and you have, 30, 40 seconds, at most 60 seconds to tell them, to give them a little bit of a taste of who you are, why you're awesome, and leave them with a lasting impression. So that's where the term elevator pitch comes from. And we really stress these elevator pitches with our students at Tech Elevator because it's so important, not just about, networking events. And I understand that you might not be able to even use these at networking events right now. If the networking events you're going to are like this, where you don't really get a chance to network with people. But some other ways that the elevator pitch is helpful is in interviews. I am sure each and every one of you has been asked the question, tell me about yourself. I hate this question. At the same time, I kind of love it because it's always interesting to see what the other person is going to say. You might just kind of spit out your entire resume when you're asked this question, and that might take 3 or 4, 5 minutes. That's not what they want to hear. They want to hear a quick summary of who you are, why you're awesome, and what you're going to bring to the company. And this is the best way to kind of give that little pitch on yourself because it's coming from you, and nobody knows you better than yourself. But really, the elevator pitch, it's not just the words you're saying. It's your body language. It's your presence. It's your energy. It's your eye contact, smile, enthusiasm. And even though we're in this crazy virtual environment right now, you can still get all of that across via Zoom or Google Hangouts or whatever video conference software you're using. You can even get that across on the phone if you're doing a phone interview. Feeling nervous is natural, totally okay. That's why why we want to start working on these elevator pitches as early as possible. I always kind of joke with my students at Tech Elevator about this feeling of being nervous. Like I mentioned, I actually started out in my career as a reporter for a news station. I can't tell you how many times my news station captured bloopers of me stumbling over my words or making weird faces or saying something at a time where I wasn't supposed to. So I have been there. Everyone's been there. I have live proof of it in video form. But the main thing to remember when you're powering through these elevator pitches is just that it's to power through. If you mess up, just keep going. Don't worry about stumbling over your words. No one's going to realize it except for you, as long as you keep talking. So, having a well-crafted and clear and a concise message in these pitches is really important, but also having it memorized and rehearsed and feeling comfortable and confident. So today what I want to do is I want to go through kind of these 4 main ingredients that I want you guys to include in your pitches. And these are the same 4 ingredients that we work with our students in creating their pitches. At Tech Elevator with our students, we actually start working with them on elevator pitches during week 2 of the program, which seems really early, considering that they really don't start applying to jobs until week 10 or 11. But the reason we want to start early is so that they have time to craft that perfect pitch and get comfortable saying it and kind of get some of those nerves out, but also to help them make a lasting impression when they give that pitch. So like I said, we're going to give you 4 ingredients, and in those 4 ingredients, you're going to be answering 4 questions. So those 4 questions are, what do you do well? What are your strengths? What is your why? And what is your goal? So if you didn't catch all those, don't worry. We're going to go through each and every one of those questions individually and talk about it in more detail. So let's talk about what you do well. These are your skills. I'm sure you guys have all heard of transferable skills. So everyone has a set of these transferable skills. Transferable skills are more or less soft skills. These are skills that you use on a daily basis in every role you've been in, whether you realize it or not. Maybe you're a strong communicator. Maybe you're really good at organizing your day or using time management or planning. Maybe you're a strong leader or you have strong teamwork skills. Maybe you have a mix of all of those. But start listing out what those transferable skills are and pick 1 or 2 that you want to highlight in your elevator pitch. When you think of every job you've ever been in, what are the skills that jump out at you the most? Or on the other side of that, what are the skills that you weren't able to use in those roles that you were disappointed that you couldn't use because you're like, you know what, I'm a really strong communicator and I just wasn't able to use that in my previous role. So start thinking about those. These transferable skills are especially important if you're a career changer. And I know I mentioned that at Tech Elevator, most of our students are career changers. But something that I've noticed on these career conversation sessions we've been hosting over the last couple months is we have a lot of other career changers. Maybe they're not transitioning into tech roles, but they're transitioning into other roles. So these transferable skills are really important if you're a career changer because you're more likely to feel like an imposter, or you're more likely to feel that imposter syndrome when navigating your job search. You might be worried that you don't have the experience in the field and you're entering, and that you won't be given a second look because of that. But that is not true. And I say this from experience with working with our hiring managers who hire our students. They're not looking for a junior developer who is an awesome, Java coding rock star. They're looking for someone with strong communication skills or a strong personality who is able to contribute to the team in other ways. I see managers looking more at these soft skills than anything else, because in their eyes, if they know, you know what, I have someone who's a strong communicator and is really motivated, I can teach them the other skills. That's not a problem. I can't teach strong teamwork or how to communicate effectively. Those are harder. Soft skills are much harder to train people on. So having those soft skills and transferable skills is so much more beneficial than you might realize. So let's talk about working those transferable skills or soft skills into your pitch. So like I said, pick one or two that you want to highlight that you're particularly strong in. In my pitch, I talk about my skills for storytelling and helping others. And I picked storytelling because I thought it was something unique. I was obviously telling stories when I worked at the news station, but I found ways to incorporate it into the other roles I've done in recruiting and in sales as well. So try to think of one or two things, and maybe these are skills that you weren't using in your other roles, but they're strong skills and you want to be able to use them. So pick one or two things and state what those skills are, and then give an example. And maybe you want to tie that example into, you've received a specific award or several awards. Maybe it is related to your education level. You have a master's degree, a PhD, a doctorate. Maybe it's just an example of a project that you've spearheaded or something that you've managed. So here are a few examples. The majority of my career has revolved around matchmaking or managing others. That's for someone who's a career coach like myself. Or maybe you want to say something like, although I've moved into different roles, I've always been focused on roles that utilize my strong organizational and planning skills. So start kind of bullet pointing out some skills that you want to use and make a list of different projects that you've led or different accomplishments you've reached in your career, and kind of pick one or two things that you really want to focus on. What are the most important things to you that stand out that you've done in your career? All right, so number 2, what are your strengths? So at Tech Elevator, we have all of our students and team members take a personality assessment called StrengthsFinder. I'm sure a few of you have heard of it. I'm a big fan of StrengthsFinder. StrengthsFinder pretty much reveals what your top 5 strengths are. And we have our students incorporate those strengths into this section of their pitch by choosing one or two that really resonate the most with them. So obviously you don't need to take StrengthsFinder to find out what your strengths are. If you do, feel free to go to the website. I think it does cost money. It might be like $15 or $20, but it's an amazing assessment, and it really tells you a lot about yourself. But again, you don't need to take StrengthsFinder to figure out what your strengths are. I'm sure you've been asked in an interview, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? So really think, like, what are your strengths? And maybe your strength is something that you haven't been able to use in a previous role, similar to your skills. So really think about what that is. So in my pitch, I highlight my positivity and my ability to help others develop their strengths, which are easily 2 of my top strengths. I was not able to use those strengths in my role as a news reporter or even in sales, but I have found that I'm able to leverage those strengths in my current role as a pathway director at Tech Elevator. So another thing to keep in mind when you're incorporating the strengths into your pitch, here's the trick. Don't flat out say, my strength is positivity, or I have a strong sense of being positive. Find a creative way to say it. So instead of maybe saying, I'm a responsible person, or my strength is problem solving, maybe you want to say, I have a passion for problem solving, or I always meet deadlines, or I take deadlines seriously. But then on top of that, take it a step further by incorporating some kind of an example. So if you highlight problem solving as a strength, maybe you want to say something about how it's been a strength in the past. I've always had a passion for problem solving and figuring out how things work and why. Even as a kid, I was fascinated by solving puzzles and solving Rubik's Cubes specifically. So something like that, but make sure you're specifically saying, why is this a strength? Tell me more. Why is it a strength? What is something you've done that can reflect that as a strength? Maybe you're a strong leader. Give me an example of a time you led a team or you spearheaded a project or something. So again, start creating that list and bulleting out why, like, your different strengths and why it might be a strength. All right, question number 3. What is your why? For me, this is always the most important part of your pitch. Ironically, it's also the part of the pitch that I always see our students are leaving out. This is your chance to really shine and highlight your why. What is your passion? So this part of the pitch should answer one or more of the following questions. What do you do? Or what do you do and why? Who do I want to help inspire? Who benefits from my work? Why am I passionate? What motivates you? What type of work gets you excited? Why do you love what you do? It sounds so simple. What is your why? But your passion doesn't just come across in what you say, but it's how you say it. So I know I kind of mentioned this at the beginning about body language. This is so important. If you're sitting here telling me, I really like coding, it gets me really excited, I don't see any passion there. But if you're telling me, oh, I love coding, I could jump out of my seat and talking about how excited I am, like using those hand gestures and how it sounds in your voice, that's going to come across. Again, if it's over the phone, if it's a remote interview like in Zoom, that is going to come across. That passion, that fire, that's what's going to jump out at hiring managers. The number one thing in my recruiting career that I've heard from hiring managers, they tell me the number one thing they look for is passion. Does not matter the role, doesn't matter if it's for a developer, an IT role, or anything. It's something that I've personally looked for when I'm recruiting for internal roles at Tech Elevator. If you don't have that passion, I'm probably not going to give you a second look. Because if you have that passion, that excitement, that fire, I know that you're going to love what you do, and I know that you're going to do a good job, because that passion is what is going to motivate you on a daily basis. So really take some time to think about, what is your why? If you're a career changer, why are you transitioning into this role? It's something I tell our students all the time. Why are you excited to be a software developer? What lights you up? What gets you going about coding? It's usually something about the problem solving or the puzzles. And yes, they will tell us that, but it's more about how they say it and like the excitement that lights up in their face when they're talking about their passion. So for me, in my pitch, I quickly realized that my passion revolved around helping others. And that was when I found joy in every role I've ever been in. So I mentioned that in my news station role, I didn't have that. I didn't really get a chance to help others as much as I wanted to. And I wasn't excited about that role. But once I found that kind of clicked with me. And I can say, I've said it before, I love my job at Tech Elevator. I love what I get to do. I love getting to help others achieve their goals on a daily basis. So it was really easy for me to work that into my pitch. Finally, you need a goal for your pitch. So this is one of the kind of gray areas, I should say the only gray area of your elevator pitch, because it might be different every time. Your goal is going to change based on the environment that you are giving the pitch. So if you are at a networking event and you are just going around meeting people, maybe your goal when you give that pitch is to schedule a phone interview or have a coffee meeting with that person, or just get a business card, connect with them on LinkedIn, or just to say, I would love to stay in touch if an opportunity falls into your lap that you think I would be a good fit for. In a job interview, your goal is going to be, I think I'd be a great fit for this job, or I'm looking for a role where I could grow in my career as a software developer. Maybe it's to land an interview. So that goal is going to change every time. I kicked off my pitch today. I kicked off this presentation with my pitch today, and my goal at the end of my pitch was, I'm excited to help each and every one of you start crafting your pitch. My pitch changes based on different environments. So if I'm talking to my students, it's going to be different than when I'm talking to you guys or giving a presentation to the public. So just think about what that goal is. And anytime you're about to give your pitch, make sure you're prepared to state what your goal is, because that might change every time you give your pitch. All right. So I've given you kind of like those 4 ingredients, those 4 questions to answer. Those have to be in your pitch somewhere. They don't have to be in that specific order. You could start with your goal and go from there, but make sure you're including each of those ingredients. Let's talk about a few other things to consider. So timing. I mentioned at the beginning, keep in mind, when you're giving your pitch, would you be able to fit this in the time frame of being on an elevator with someone? If it's a minute, minute and a half, 2 minutes, you probably won't be able to. So the key is to remember that if they have questions or want more details, I promise you, they will ask. You want, like, the whole point of an elevator pitch is just to give them a little taste of who you are. So if you've been asked, tell me about yourself in an interview, make sure you're not going on a whole spiel about, oh, I worked at a news station, I graduated from Baldwin Wallace with a degree in broadcasting, and then I got a job here, and then I got a job here. That's not what they want to know. They see that on your resume, they see that on your LinkedIn profile. They don't want a play-by-play of every job. They want to know who you are, and they want to hear your pitch from your perspective, because no one is going to know your strengths and your skill set better than you. So this is your 30 to 40 seconds to sell them on who you are and what you do. I forget the specific percentage, but I want to say it's around 60 to 70% of hiring managers know within the first 5 minutes if they're going to move forward with a candidate. That's not to say that they're going to extend an offer, but I can tell you, I know in the first 5 minutes of interviewing somebody if I want to move on to the next round with them or not. Most hiring managers feel that way too. So if you start out strong, it's only going to get better from there. So again, keep it to 30 to 40 seconds, really at least 30 seconds, no longer than a minute. I know it seems short, but I promise you can get a lot more into that 30, 40 seconds than you probably realize. Just keep in mind, less is always more. Confidence is key. So whether you're in an interview or at a networking event or grabbing coffee or even doing a Zoom happy hour with a friend, if you don't sound confident, the other person you're talking with is going to second guess everything you're saying. So first, take a breath. No matter what you're doing, always take a breath first. And make sure you're breathing at punctuation. So if you have, periods, commas in your pitch, take those breaths. This is something I tell our students all the time. They'll be so nervous and they're just powering through their pitch. I don't think they've taken a breath in the full 30 seconds. And then they let out a deep breath at the end and they're panting because they haven't been breathing the entire time. So think of it as, a workout class, or if you go to yoga, they tell you to breathe the entire time. Breathe when you're giving your pitch or when you're in an interview. And then second, don't forget to smile. A smile goes a long way. Even if it's not on video or in person, they can hear your smile. I promise you, it seems really silly. I can tell if the person is smiling on the other end of the phone or not. A smile will go a really, really long way. And then when in doubt, fake it till you make it. Your pitch is yours and yours alone. So no one else knows what's coming next or what's in the script. So if you mess it up, go with the flow and keep going. When our students are giving their pitches, they feel like they have to stick exactly to a T to the script. And if they forget what's coming next, they just kind of stand there and they look at me or they look at their classmates and they're like, I don't know what I'm saying. Well, no one knows what you're going to say, but you have to keep going. Yes, you might have a script or a bulleted list of what you want to say, but nobody else knows what's coming up. So just go with the flow and think of it on the fly and keep going, power through. Because even if it's not what you were planning on saying, as long as you say something, they probably won't realize that you mess up. Students will come to me and say, it completely bombed my pitch. It was so awful. And I'll often look at them and say, I had no idea you messed up because you kept going and you did a great job. And what you said, the flow was still really good. It sounded good. You had a smile and enthusiasm. If you're keeping all these things in mind, it will go just fine. But again, breathe, have a smile on your face, and go in confidently. End every sentence confidently and with a period. Never end with a question mark at the end of your pitch or at every sentence. You want to make sure that you're not sounding like this. This is called uptalk. And if it sounds like every statement is making a question, they're going to question you. So make sure you're not ending every statement with a question mark. Like I said, that's called uptalk, and it makes you question your confidence, and it's going to make the other person question your confidence in the role as well. So be very careful not to do this. This is something once you kind of are aware of it, you'll notice it more and more. It's very common, especially in the Midwest. People do it all the time. And even if you do it in conversation with people, just make sure you're not doing it during an interview or a presentation. All right, and one more thing to remember, practice makes perfect. So what I'm about to tell you, it's going to seem really weird, really silly, but practice in front of the mirror. Practice in the car. Record yourself and play it back. When I worked at the news station, I had to come up with scripts on the fly. And I would be driving in my Jeep to go from, wherever I was filming back to the news studio. And I had 20 minutes to put a script together. And I would be talking to myself over and over and over again. People probably thought I was crazy because this was before people had Bluetooth in their car and people thought I was talking to myself. But it worked, and it really helped me practice. With our students, I would tell them back when we were having classes on site, when you're coming to and from Tech Elevator every day, practice your pitch in your car and don't stop until you get it good at least once. So the more you practice and watch yourself, the more confident you'll be. But especially recording yourself and watching it play back, you're going to be your toughest critic all the time. So you're going to pick apart, I don't like how I said this. I didn't like, I wasn't smiling. I didn't like my hand gestures or my mannerisms. So record yourself and watch it back. Watch your play. Do this in the mirror. Do it in the car. Do it with your spouse or somebody who you're living with, a roommate. Your pitch may be different every time. And honestly, an unscripted pitch is sometimes the best approach, as long as you have the bullets of what you're going to say and that comes across. It doesn't necessarily matter that you're following a script to a T. I know I kind of talked about this earlier. Nobody knows what's in your script or what's in your bulleted list. So if you leave something out, that's going to be fine, as long as you get the point across. If you're the kind of person who works better with having a script, there's nothing wrong with that. That's what we teach our students at Tech Elevator to do, is have a script. But just make sure you're comfortable with it and you have it memorized and you feel comfortable doing it kind of off the cuff. And you can kind of go with the flow if you need to change the goal or change things around depending on your environment. All right. So before we move on to questions, and just a reminder, if you have any questions, make sure to use that Q&A feature at the bottom. Andrea will be fielding those to me shortly. So more upcoming events, middle of June, on June 10th, so in 2 weeks, come back and we're going to have an elevator pitch practice. You'll be able to practice your pitch. I will give you feedback. Andrea will give you feedback. We'd like this to be very interactive, very collaborative. This is a great opportunity to, take the next 2 weeks, work on your pitch and come back to us. We'll give you some feedback and some pointers on what we think about it, and you can just continue to work on it from there. On the 24th, we're going to have an open Q&A on LinkedIn. So bring any and all questions you've had on using LinkedIn for your job search, updating your profile, whatever kind of questions you have about LinkedIn, we are more than happy to answer those. And then also, if you're interested in Tech Elevator, we have open houses today at noon, 12:30, and 6 p.m. Those are all virtual, so even though it might say Cleveland Virtual Open House, Columbus, if you're interested, you can attend a virtual open house for any of our campuses because it really is all the same information. And as usual, make sure you check out our career resources page on techelevator.com/career resources with all kinds of wonderful content related to resumes, LinkedIn, interviewing tips, and your job search. And if you're interested in applying for Tech Elevator, check out our website and take our aptitude test.